Hi, and welcome to the Super Sprouts video series from Hershey Gardens. I'm Sydney.
I'm Rebecca.
And I'm Lindsay. And today we are going over some basics of growing your own kale at home from seed to harvest. A peat pellet is a small disc of dehydrated peat moss. In particular, this one's a 42 millimeter, and the different sizes cater to different sizes of root systems that you would have in a variety of plants. So it's covered in a fine mesh netting so that when it expands, roots are able to still get through and it can biodegrade in any soil.
So to expand it, you would place your peat pellet in any dish or container that can hold water and just make sure that you're covering the peat pellet entirely. It'll take about 10 minutes for the peat pellet to soak up all the water enough to expand to its fullest potential, and it should look like this.
You might want to pull it apart a little bit so that you can plant the seeds. Then you can make a small indent in the center. These seeds today we'll be planting are kale. They are super tiny, and we are gonna place 3 inside just in case one does not germinate. We have a good chance with the others. After you place the seeds inside, you can loosen up the soil on top. Once the seeds are planted in your peat pellet and the loose soil is on top, you can place it on a plate and find a nice sunny windowsill so it can start to grow. Germination is the process of growth from a seed into a seedling. When the seed is planted and receives water, the seed coat splits, a root grows downward, and a shoot grows upward, reaching for the sun. Depending on the type of seed, the time it takes to germinate may differ. You should start to see a sprout in about a week, and once the roots start coming out of the peat pellet on the sides, you can transplant it into a larger container.
Before transplanting our kale from an indoor controlled environment to an outdoor space, we need to take it through a process called hardening off. Hardening off is the process of gradually introducing an indoor plant to outdoor conditions so it has a better chance of adjusting. As soon as temperatures warm to 45 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit, plants can be moved outside to a protected area for a few hours, but then returned indoors. If seedlings are not hardened off, plants will not be able to withstand wind, rain, and outdoor weather elements.
So we're now in the hoop house and we're ready to transplant our kale. I have one that's been transferred to a little bit of a larger container and one from its peat pellet. There are more than 2 leaves here on the kale plant. It's beyond its first set of true leaves, so these are ready to be transplanted. We can plant them in a larger container or we can plant them directly in the soil. Containers for kale can be various sizes. We have a cast iron container here, a plastic bucket, as well as a ceramic pot. Now, all of these containers have holes in the bottom of them to ensure well drainage, but you can grow kale in any of these containers. Here in Pennsylvania, the date of the last frost is sometime in May. You can plant kale as early as April. Kale does not mind a little bit of a cold. In fact, a light frost will actually make the leaves a little bit sweeter. Kale is in the cabbage family and attracts a lot of insects. So we have this light cloth to cover the cabbages to protect them from moths that will lay their eggs, and the little caterpillars will eat the leaves. At home, if you do not have hoops or a row cover, plant your kale in containers because it'll take the plant up off the ground and will help prevent snails and slugs from eating your plants. I'm placing my pellet down into the ground. Be very careful with your seedling, and then lightly top dress it with your mulch. You can certainly add some compost if you have it, but kale is very hardy and it thrives in multiple soil conditions. Nasturtium is a great companion plant to kale and cabbage plants, as nasturtium is a great insect deterrent. So I'm going to plant both of these nasturtiums adjacent to our kale and cabbages. If your plant that you've been growing at home is nice and strong and you've got roots that are coming even out of the bottom of your pot, you're going to just crunch your pot a little bit, cinch it, loosen up those roots. In this case here, this is not a root-bound plant, so I really don't need to do too much of that, but it's just a helpful hint. Pull my soil back around it. Top dress it with the mulch. Kale needs about 1 inch to 1.5 inches of water every week, so monitor your weather conditions. If you're growing your kale in containers, you want to make sure that your soil stays moist, that you're watering at least 1 inch to 1.5 inches every week. Watch the weather report to make sure that you're getting that amount of rain.
Kale is a super nutritious leafy green filled with antioxidants, vitamin C, and minerals. It can be a great addition to salads and pasta dishes, used in sandwiches as a substitute for lettuce, or even sautéed on its own. Kale can also be crisped in the oven for a salty snack, like kale chips. You can use the fresh pieces in recipes or choose to stash some in the freezer for your next smoothie. Thanks for watching. We hope you enjoyed learning more about our gardening tips and tricks.
This project is made possible by the U.S. Institute of Museum and Library Services.
For more information about Hershey Gardens or to plan your next visit, you can visit us at HersheyGardens.org.